Everyone. I hope everybody is doing good and welcome to my channel. So, the last lecture which I took on this platform was regarding the volume of distribution, and today I'll be continuing with that sequence only. And today we'll be talking about metabolism. So, So what is actually metabolism? Before we discuss about the metabolism, we should understand that there is one more term which is frequently used synonymously is elimination. Right? So what is elimination? Elimination is the process to terminate the action of the drug. So here it terminates the action of the drug. Right? Now the elimination process is it's an umbrella term, and it is further divided into two main categories, and first is metabolism and second is excretion. Now excretion part we will be discussing in the subsequent lectures. Today we will be concentrating on metabolism. Now what happens is that we have already discussed that pharmacokinetics involves four main processes. First was absorption, then it was distribution, then it was metabolism, and then the excretion part. So the drug was absorbed inside the body, then it gets distributed in the various tissue, and there are the organs responsible for metabolizing the drugs. Now what we have to discuss is that what is the fate of the drug when the drug gets metabolized. So the second thing what we have to learn is what is the fate of the drug, right? So if you talk about the fate of the drug, there can be three fates. One, if the drug is already active and after metabolize it gets inactive, which usually happens in the metabolism. Whenever the drug is taken, it is active for a certain period of time, and after that when the drug's action needs to be terminated, it gets inactivated. Second thing is that when the drug is active and after metabolism also the drug gets active again, even the metabolite is active, and for that the example is of diazepam, where diazepam is an active drug when taken, and when it gets metabolized it's converted into oxazepam, which is also an active form of drug. Then the third component which you have to discuss is the drug is inactive. Initially it is inactive and after metabolism it gets activated. Now this process, this is known as the drug which is inactivate initially is known as prodrug. That means when the drug was taken inside the body, it was inactive. There are certain reactions taking inside the body which activates that drug, and then the drug show its action, and that drug which is inactive, it is known as prodrug. So what important question is asked in the exam related to the prodrug is that which one of the following is a prodrug. So for that there is a mnemonic to it. It is all prefer MD in clinical subjects, right? So from all it is ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors except captopril and lisinopril, which are not prodrugs. Rest all the drugs are prodrugs. From P we have PPIs, that is proton pump inhibitor. From M we have methyl dopa. D we have DP-warfarin. Then from I we have irinotecan. From C we have cyclophosphamide. And from S we have sulfasalazine. So if we talk about all these drugs, these are inactive initially, and when they are taken inside the body, they get activated, right? So if now we'll discuss about the metabolism part. Under metabolism there are two main reactions, phase 1 and phase 2. Metabolism can also be known as biotransformation. The basic difference what you have to learn with respect to phase 1 and phase 2 reaction is that phase 1 reaction just makes the drug sticky. How does it do that? Because it exposes the functional group. It exposes the functional group of the drug, due to which the drugs become sticky, and thus it can get converted into phase 2 reaction. Whereas phase 2 reaction main purpose is to make the drug water soluble. Because when the drug is converted into water soluble, it can go out of the body. So main purpose of phase 2 is convert the drug into water soluble, whereas phase 1 it makes this drug sticky via exposing the functional group. Now what all things come under phase 1 reaction is oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis, cyclization, decyclization, and deamination. Whereas under phase 2 reaction there is the addition of some functional group. There is some addition to the functional group, which is like gluconidation, sulfation, methylation, and acetylation. So these are the various phase 1 and phase 2 reactions. What question can be asked in your exam is that which is the most common phase 1 reaction, then you will say it is the oxidation. Oxidation is the most common phase 1 reaction, and if you have to talk about phase 2, in phase 2 glucuronidation is the most common one, right? So we have discussed about phase 1 and phase 2 reaction. Now there are certain enzymes which are responsible for carrying out this metabolism part. They are further divided into two main headings. One is microsomal, other is non-microsomal enzymes, right? Microsomal enzymes are known as microsomal because they are present inside the microsomes, and they are sarcoplasmic endoplasmic reticulum. So they are attached to cytoplasmic endoplasmic reticulum, that's why they are known as microsomal enzymes, whereas non-microsomal enzymes are present outside the microsomes, right? The second basic difference between microsomal and non-microsomal enzymes is that under microsomal enzymes, they are inhibited as well as induced, whereas they are not inhibited or induced. Now, what do you mean by inhibition and induction? Is that there are few drugs which can initiate or induce the action of these microsomal enzymes, and there are few drugs which can inhibit the action of these enzymes. So we'll be discussing the process of induction and inhibition with the help of an example. What is induction? What is inhibition? Now what happens, supposedly there is 100 molecules of a drug, right, and that molecules, 100 molecules of that drug gets converted into 50 molecules within 1 hour, right? So when this is the normal process, and there are few enzymes which are responsible for converting 100 into 50 molecules within 1 hour. Supposedly this is the half-life, because from 100 to 50 the drug has come down to half, right? So this is the half-life. Now same drug, 100 molecules are given along with a enzyme inducer. We will be discussing what are the list or the numerous drugs which are enzyme inducers. But if we are giving 100 molecules of the drug along with enzyme inducer, what will happen? Now the drug will get converted to 10. It will come down to 10 molecules within 1 hour. That means now if here 20 enzymes were working, now it has activated more enzymes. So here maybe 40 enzymes are now activated to convert that 100 molecules to its metabolites, right? So if we compare this, here 50 was coming after 1 hour, here 10 is coming. That means 90 molecules are being metabolized if we give enzyme inducers, because enzyme inducer has induced the enzyme to metabolize more drug. So this process is known as enzyme induction. Now what about inhibition? There are 100 molecules again for the drug, and it gets converted to 50 within 1 hour, right? Again there are 100 molecules, but now instead of giving enzyme inducer, we are giving enzyme inhibitor. So what will be the fate of this drug? Now this will get converted into 90 within 1 hour. Now if 20 molecules were working initially here, now they will say that only 10 molecules are working. 20 molecules of the enzyme which were working initially, now only 10 will be working, because we have given an inhibitor, right? So that inhibitor has inhibited the action of the enzymes. So now there will be more drug available for its action, and here less drug was available for its action. So what will be the clinical importance of giving enzyme inducer and enzyme inhibitor? If you give an enzyme inducer, you have to increase the dose of the drug. Increase the dose of the drug. Whereas if you are giving enzyme inhibitor, you have to decrease the dose of the drug, because already there is too much of dose which is present, which can lead to toxicity. So we have to decrease the dose of the drug, right? So this is the clinical importance. You have to keep in mind that if you are prescribing an enzyme inducer, you will increase the dose, and if you are giving enzyme inhibitor, you will decrease the dose, right? Next comes that what are the list of drugs which act as enzyme inducers and inhibitors. For inducers we have the mnemonic GPRS sulfone. G is griseofulvin, P is phenytoin, R is rifampicin, from S we have smoking, C we have carbamazepine, P we have phenobarbital. So if you look at this list, you will see that there are so many anti-epileptic drugs: phenytoin, carbamazepine, phenytoin. They are mostly anti-epileptic drugs are enzyme inducers, right? And if we talk about enzyme inhibitors, the mnemonic is vitamin K cannot cause enzyme inhibition, right? So if from V we have valproate, K we have ketoconazole, C we have cimetidine, again we have C, that is ciprofloxacin, E we have enzyme, that is erythromycin, and last is isoniazid. So here mostly the drugs which are there, they are all antibiotics. So antibiotics are enzyme inhibitors and the anti-epileptic drugs are enzyme inducers. This is the basic difference between enzyme inducers and enzyme inhibitors. So which kind of enzymes are there which can cause this enzyme induction and inhibition? These enzymes are known as cytochrome P450 enzymes. They belongs to the category of microsomal enzyme because we have already discussed that these are only microsomal enzymes which can be induced or inhibited. So cytochrome P450 are the most common enzymes which are causing the metabolism, and they cause only phase 1 reactions, right? So what you have to learn is that first of all the question is asked on the name of the drug. You must have learned that cytochrome enzymes are in a form of CYP3A4, 2D6, 2C9. So what do you understand by this is that this cytochrome P is the pigment, and 450, what is the significance of 450? 450 is the wavelength at which cytochrome, this pigment, absorbs light. 450 nanometer is the wavelength at which this pigment absorbs light. So what are the examples of cytochrome P450? It is CYP3A4, CYP2D6, CYP2C9, CYP2C19, CYP1A1. Mostly the questions are asked from these examples only. Before we discuss that what all drugs can be metabolized from these cytochrome enzyme, first let's discuss that what is the significance of these names. Cytochrome, CYP is the cytochrome, that is the pigment, 3 is the family, A is the subfamily, and 4, it is the isoform of the cytochrome P450. So if you need to dissect the name of the cytochrome enzyme, you will understand that cytochrome CYP is the pigment which we have already discussed, which is coming from cytochrome P450. 3 is the family, A is the subfamily, and the 4 which is there, that is the isoform of that cytochrome enzyme. So now we will be discussing about various drugs which can be metabolized from cytochrome 3A4. We will discuss about the mnemonic for this is CT scan. From C it is, so what all drugs can be metabolized from cytochrome 3A4? First of all, it is cycloserine, then tacrolimus, statin group of drugs. From C there is a word which is attached, that is cat, and cat itself contains 3 more drugs, that is cisapride, estimazole and terfenadine. Then comes A, that is amiodarone, which is an antiarrhythmic drug, and last N is Navir group of drug, that is ritonavir, saquinavir, protease inhibitor drugs, which we will be discussing in antiviral group of drugs. So this CT scan is the mnemonic for all the drugs which are metabolized from CYP3A4. If somebody asks you that which of the cytochrome isoform or the type cytochrome enzyme has least variation associated with this, then this is the answer. 3A4 have least variation associated with. Whereas if you have to talk about which of the drug have maximum variation, that is CYP2D6. This cytochrome have maximum variation associated with it, right? So if we have now, we want to discuss that what all drugs are metabolized from CYP2D6. There are 2 forms. One is beta blockers, other is antidepressants. If you have to learn about how beta blockers and antidepressants are coming as an example for CYP2D6, if you look here, CYP2 is the B is the second alphabet in the vocabulary, right? B is the second alphabet. So from 2 you can learn that beta blockers, and from D you can learn the depressants, antidepressants, which include TCA, SSRI, all those drugs, right? Next example is of CYP2C9. Now 9 is a form of a mirror image of P. So from here you can learn that it is phenytoin. Whereas C, from C you can learn it is a clotting, some clotting drug is used, and that is warfarin. So 2 drugs which are metabolized from 2C19, that is phenytoin and warfarin. Next example is CYP2C19. 2C19. So if you look at C, from C we have clopidogrel. And from 19, this is a mirror image again for P. So from here you can learn it is PPIs, proton pump inhibitors. So one, there is clopidogrel and other is PPI. The last example is that of CYP1A1, and from here also you can learn that which drug can be metabolized for 1A1. A is acetaminophen. Right? So with this we have completed the whole lot of examples of cytochrome enzymes and what all drugs can be metabolized. With this we have completed the part of metabolism from the pharmacokinetics. Next I will be discussing about the excretion part. So I hope you like the lecture. Thank you.